I'm Janice Hossager. After 3 decades in the marketing business and many years of being an entrepreneur, I've learned a thing or two about marketing. Join me as we talk about marketing, small business, and life in between. Welcome to My Weekly Marketing. Have you noticed how much marketing has started to feel all the same? The same graphics, the same Canva templates, the same AI written headlines, the same colors, layouts, calls to action. And the word actually is a red flag that screams AI to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Anyway, if you scroll through your inbox, after a while, it all starts to blur together. But here's the funny part. Most of us aren't really trying to copy each other. We're just kind of following the same best practices. We read the same blogs, watch the tutorials, use the templates, and then we let AI help us write maybe a little faster. Before we know it, our marketing looks a whole lot like everybody else's, and it all becomes plain vanilla. So how do you stand out without throwing away everything that works? That's exactly what we're talking about today. My guest is RJ Talyor, CEO of Backstroke. His company has analyzed more than 20,000 retail marketing emails to understand what actually grabs attention and what causes brands to disappear into the sea of sameness. Today, we're digging in why algorithms often reward conformity and what small business owners can do to build marketing that's both effective and unmistakably their own. If you've ever wondered how to make your emails or your brand or really any part of your marketing more memorable, you're going to love our conversation. Here's my talk with RJ. Welcome to My Weekly Marketing.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So before I dive in, usually I like to jump into questions right away, but I really think that your background is super relevant to the discussion that we're having today. So tell us a little bit about how you got into this topic, because I think it sets up our conversation nicely.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in digital marketing in the software world for 23 years now. I got my start at ExactTarget. I led the email and mobile teams at Salesforce as a part of the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And then I really got into the creative AI space in 2016. I started a business that was called Pattern 89, and it would predict what you would click on Instagram or Facebook. And so it would predict that women who live in Austin who wear black shirts blue couches, and that men who have brown shirts who live in Indianapolis like certain other dimensions. And it was early days of AI, and it helped us to use computer vision and tagging to extract features from large data sets to then predict what we would actually click on. I sold that business to Shutterstock in 2021 and then started tooling around with some of these generative capabilities to start Backstroke. And Backstroke's my company now that predicts what you'll click on based on personalization within email campaigns. And so that's kind of the quick professional background. In addition, I have an English degree and I have a master's in creative writing. So I come at all of these things from kind of two angles. One is from the technology capability side, and with an MFA, I come at it from the creative side. And it's kind of this weird intersection that we all are at from like a human perspective. And it's kind of a fun place to be, I think, to experiment and learn.
It really is. I mean, that's kind of the same background that I have too. I have a degree in art and also English. And then I also have a background in running an agency, creative agency. And then now I'm in marketing strategy. And of course, I think I've really tried to get in there and really embrace AI. But I'm starting to see the issues with all of this. And I'm starting to pick up on a lot of it when I see it in other places. So I think that's what makes this such an important conversation to have. Now, you have a tool that you evaluated like 28,000 plus brand emails, right?
Yeah.
For retailers, right? So, but when you opened the data for the first time, what was the thing that made you say, oh gosh, I see an issue here?
So back 5 years ago, I started signing up for every email marketing program I could find to build the data set that we could then analyze these tools. And so we have millions and millions of emails now across all these different retail and e-com brands. And the thing that's shocking is the sameness of it all. And it's so, as humans, we're normalizing towards best practice. And there's a lot of mimicry out there. We look at the leader and then we try to make our content look like the leader because we want it to feel more aesthetic or more luxe or more expensive or more sporty or raw or whatever it is. And the true like human voices get kind of squished out because as humans, we are attracted towards looking the same or looking on trend, right? Like we want to sound catchy or want to sound like the leader or we want to sound like each other. And so the sameness was actually really what was wild. And, everything like in the email data set from like the average number of words in a subject line is six words. There are lots of common words that are always capitalized, or there are 7 most common emojis that are being used. And it's, the lack of uniqueness in the email. If you think about a structure of an email, it typically is the first 400 pixels has a face or a body, and then that's the hero with a shop now button, followed by a 4 grid or a 6 grid of content. And so like these templates and subject lines and colors, everything almost like looks so similar within a single email. And then if you look at the emails next to each other, like the pattern is very similar as well. And the machines pick up on it and they identify that like when you introduce the summer line, it's an introductory email, then it's feature 1, feature 2, colorway, then it's feature 2, feature 3, specific down, like zooming into the fabric. And then we move into a sale frequency where introduction of the sale got discounted at 10%, 25%. Then it's clearance and clearance, not clearance. So it's like a set of around 14 to 16 emails that is within one of these collections that's then repeated throughout the year. So sameness was what the shocking thing was. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And I notice this a lot, especially with newer businesses, because especially the people like my listeners, I mean, we're starting out, we're a little unsure of what everything should look like. So we immediately grab onto somebody who's doing it really well, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so then we think, okay, if I could just do it like that, then I'll be more successful in what I do. And I noticed this too, working in advertising years ago and marketing. It really is the part that people just look right past.
Yeah.
It doesn't stand out to them because they're so used to it. And we really need something that's going to stand out and look different, which is obviously what works. Sometimes it
Yeah.
works. I won't say always, but yeah, I mean, that gets the attention, and that's the attention is that thing that we're all trying to get.
Yeah.
So, but where is that sameness coming from? Is it that we kind of all look to the leaders in our industry and people that we think are doing well and try and copy that? Is it from the AI models themselves producing similar outputs? Is it maybe the prompts that everybody is asking from AI?
Well, there's kind of 2 answers to the question. One is like, I'm not an anthropologist at all. But like, as humans, we're pack animals and we do things to fit in, right? We want to look in a certain way or act in a certain way so we're not rejected. And like at the primal level, you don't get cast out and starve and die or whatever. And we want to, we want to look and feel the same. And so, or feel, similar enough that we're expected and familiar. So there's that, wild ideas are rejected often, like in the ad agency world, everybody says, I want something unique. And then you show me something unique and they're like, no, I want it to look like Nike or, and so,
Yeah.
or whatever the case is. So I really admire trailblazers and unique people and weird things and people for that reason. Like I can tell you all the weird things I like, but I love that. But it's dangerous. It's risky. And
It
so
is.
often we kind of normalize, right? We go to the norm and we want to look in a certain way, act in a certain way. And the AI models are predictive models. These LLMs, they are predictive, and the predictive is looking for what are you going to click on? What's most likely? What are the patterns? And it's trained on these large data sets that have a sameness to them. And so it's looking to, again, normalize the data and say, hey, here's what a quote best practice is. Like I'm so guilty, maybe you are too, of writing lots and lots of blogs from like 10 years ago. Here are the 10 best practices for retailers. Here are the 10 best practices for subject lines. 10 back, and what we're doing is we're saying this is the average. Best practices are average. They're the things that are like what are expected. And so that's effectively what all these LMs are doing, is looking for the best practice and then recommending that. And so between the combination of sort of our innate need to fit in combination with the LLMs just reinforcing it, we end up with a lot of sameness, a lot of khakis, a lot of, just a lot of things that look the same, whether it's, like the all white kitchen, the Lululemon leggings look,
Yeah.
the, clothes that I'm wearing, or, the emails and marketing campaigns that we're sending. It's kind of a double-headed monster there.
Yeah. And you're right. We all fall into that to some
Yeah.
degree in some part of our life for sure. We don't want to
Yeah.
be the weirdo, right?
Right.
No one
Yeah.
wants to be a
Totally.
weirdo.
Yeah.
uh, so the people that are listening to this, they're using ChatGPT or Claude or to help them write emails. When an LM looks at the data, do they look at what's successful or do they look at the averages?
Well, they're looking at what's common. So the LLMs don't have the performance data in them. They're looking at what is most commonly used. So, I mean, that's the whole
Okay.
pitch for my company, Backstroke, which is we can predict what's going to perform, looking at your performance against a larger data set of thousands of other retailers and millions of email campaigns, so we can understand what is on brand as well as differentiated, but then also performant. Because as a marketer, you're going to get fired if everything's like weird but not performant.
Right. Yeah.
But if it's different and unique and on brand and it performs, then of course you've got a really nice winner there. So yeah, so to answer your question, the LMs just look for what's most common.
Okay. I tend to trust them thinking like there's some all-knowing entity out there. They
Yeah.
know what worked really well. So I should trust them, even though my gut's telling me that's not the right approach. And
Yeah.
can I kind of go back and forth with them for like more bigger decisions, less like the writing and that sort of thing. But that's really interesting. So they're designed to just move toward the average.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
and that's
interesting.
like, I want to urge, like, that's okay for some things. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
You can't like make everything a masterpiece. Like you'll go out of business trying to make everything a masterpiece. So, what I talk to our clients about is like, all right, what are like the 70-80% of the emails or the campaigns that you can allow the machine to generate for you? Do that, and then use your human time to actually create something magnificent, something unique, something that stands out. And like that's the whole point of a tool that can automate or perform a task for you. Where I think people make mistakes is they say, oh, now I'm going to offload this whole thing, my entire marketing strategy, to the LLM so that I can go do something more important. And if you're a marketer, I'm not sure what's more important than
Yeah.
literally
Getting business. Yeah.
and then you end with averages. And I
Yeah.
think that we're just at the start of this, because the problem is that the data that's been collected and normalized by these LLMs is from a vast set of data, but now we're actually seeing AI generated content training the machine. So it's
Hmm.
like reinforcement learning is coming from itself, and so
Hmm.
it's just more and more and more and more and more and more normalized. So it,
Yeah.
so the opportunity is for humans, of course, to then create something net new, right?
Yeah.
Bringing in some dissonance or uniqueness, which I think is cool. So
Yeah, I actually listened to a webinar yesterday by copywriter Laura Belgrade. And of course, she's very creative and does amazing things with her writing. But she was comparing just a sentence written by AI, which was a decent sentence. It
yeah,
was grammatically correct. It seemed good compared to one that she wrote as a human. And
yeah,
putting side by side like that, it was really amazing to me because that human element, I think AI can come close in some respects,
right,
but it's just not, it's not there yet. And
yeah,
like you said, I'm afraid it's going to get worse. But
yeah, me too. Yeah.
so show us the contrast. What does like a top performing email look like now versus a middle of the pack one in your data? What is there one big thing or is it a bunch of small things stacked up? Quick break. I want to talk to you about the thing almost nobody wants to work on, your messaging. Here's why it matters. Every single piece of marketing that you make sits on top of your core messaging, your website, your emails, even the thing that you say at networking events when someone asks, so what do you do? When the message underneath is fuzzy, everything you build on top of it gets wobbly. So I made you a guide. It's called the What Do You Do Formula Guide, and it walks you through the 5 steps with real examples to create powerful messaging about what you do so people stop and take notice. It's free. It takes just 15 minutes to complete, and it's the thing everything else is built on. You can grab it at janicehossager.com/what, or click the link in the show notes.
Well, so for the biggest thing that's a difference is the hero imagery. So it would depend on the individual brand and your subscribers, but 46% of your clicks come from that hero image. So if you think of the first 400 to 600 pixels, sometimes you'll think, oh, it's above the fold, but it's actually the 4 to 600 pixels. And within that, it's a simple, direct message with a simple button. There has to be a button, not like a specific call to action. If for some reason, like if there's no button, it doesn't work as well. I mean, but that's where the winning comes from. And you could then the rest of because that's where the bulk of the clicks come from, right? So if you think about how can I make this part of my email overperform, that's ultimately the winner. Now there's all sorts of different variations of that, whether or not you include like a header bar or not that matches your website, for example, or we see, for example, like a lot of women tend to scroll down all the way to the bottom of the email on their mobile device and then click on social icons. We see that there's actually a lot of young people who will click in the first 400 pixels of an email, specifically on mobile devices, but then will actually convert on a desktop. So it's all the classic, it depends. But if you think about the first 400 to 600 pixels as the place to really drive the performance, that's where that's where we see the best campaigns winning.
Okay. So it's more that put your call to action toward the top is is one of the lessons for sure. And because I was actually just changing email this morning where I moved a CTA up.
Yeah.
Now your study is on retailers, right?
Correct.
Does any of that translate, you think, to service-based businesses, the same kind of thing, or the retail buyer so different from somebody that's going to buy a service?
Well, I think that people who are buying like products are in like a different shopping mode. It's almost like they're just looking at it circular in a way. Some brands have done a better job of creating a relationship where they're telling stories about their clothing or people who are using their clothing out in the world or the fabric or the kind of the legacy behind it. On the service-based business stuff, I think there's a lot more opportunity for communicating information that is valuable information that establishes a service organization as expert. So I think that there is more content that they can consume. I don't have the data, but it makes how do we communicate the hook in the first 400 to 600 pixels and then encourage them to scroll down and even stay within the email to learn something or learn about the expertise of the service provider before jumping them off to do whatever is next. The call to action is going to vary within a retail environment. The call to action is buy now, versus maybe a service-based organization. It might be to buy now, but it's probably more like a set of emails that is going to communicate that message over time.
Does that translate to like information or like I send a weekly email just with information? There's no CTA on that one typically. Same kind of thing, or you probably don't have data on that either because
I don't have I don't have data, but it's interesting. I've literally been in email since 2004, so it is the case of like building up that expertise, making sure that you're providing something valuable versus like just driving the click in the retail world.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So give us a best practice. And you talked about best practices not necessarily being on track. What's something that we've heard over and over again that your data said is actually hurting performance now?
Ooh, let me think about a really good one there. I would say frequency. We've heard for the longest time that you need to be in your subscribers' inboxes 3 to 5 times a week, something like that. Otherwise, they forget about you. About 77% of purchases come from the first week, or conversions come from the first week, and then that tail gets really, really narrow. So So it's always been that email's a cheap way to just ping people over and over and over again. You actually end up destroying your deliverability, destroying your overall conversion rate, and then just tiring out the customer if you're communicating to them that many times. It used to be, hey, I just want to be in the inbox. I want to be in the inbox. I want to whatever. Now you need to really be strategic about who and when. But that frequency component, I think, is overlooked from a best practice perspective, and the data shows it.
That is really interesting because just yesterday, I have a colleague that focuses on email marketing, and he put out a video on LinkedIn yesterday saying that the data shows that there was some big study, and I can't remember who did it, maybe Adobe, maybe not.
Mm.
I'm not sure about that. That said that the best thing to do is to email every day of the week, 5 times a week. So it actually contradicted exactly what you
Mm-mm.
just said. So that's really interesting. And I pushed back on that a little bit. I said, when clients have tried that, it tends to backfire again, a lot of unsubscribes. So,
Yeah.
top of mind is one thing, but annoying
Yeah.
somebody is another.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine it's business dependent, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not buying shirts every day of the week, or I'm not, like, I think that's dangerous. I think that my guess is that that would be a short term win. But because of the priority inbox as well as deliverability issues, I think you're going to end up tanking your overall email performance in the mid to long term. And then I guess the only other thing I would say is if you have an unlimited budget to get new subs, then sure, go for it. Um,
Yeah.
seriously, like if you could just keep pumping money into the acquisition machine and getting new subscribers on your list, that's great. But you're gonna annoy slash get your whole inbox. You're gonna get out of people's inboxes over time with that strategy.
Burn them out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if I'm a coach or consultant and I'm following all the best practices, so write short subject lines, use one call to action toward the top.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand how to tell the difference between a rule that's actually working for your business and versus one that's just a best practice that everybody says
Yeah.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I would split test everything, because the email service providers have made it really easy to do an A/B test. And if you can get in the discipline of A/B testing every campaign and just making one tweak, right? Like, 6-word subject line always works. Well, maybe it doesn't for you. I don't know. So if you can just make it literally a small change like that, each one, you're going to learn. I mean, if you do 5 campaigns a week or 3 campaigns a week and make every single one of them a slight tweak on the A/B test, you're going to learn what works best for your brand and over time. So A/B testing is the best way to validate a best practice for you or to learn. The other thing that I find is that customers often say things like, "Oh, we A/B tested that and it worked." And then you're like, "Well, when did you A/B test that?" I'm like, "Well, I A/B tested it in December." Oh, okay. Well, in December, email volume spikes around 50 to 100% depending on the day. And it may have worked in December or may not have worked in December, but now it's, a different month, different quarter. It's actually a whole different environment. So constantly A/B testing and testing your assumptions is the way to win. It does add a step, right? But
Hmm.
it's small. And it's almost like you're kind of lured into A/B testing or like to your own best practices. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
we used to test this. I've also heard customers tell me things like, oh, Sarah A/B tested that last year. And I'm like, who's Sarah? I haven't heard about Sarah. I'm like, well, Sarah left the business last year, but she did the A/B test, presented it to the exec team, and that's why we always do the thing, right? And so like some legacy bit test, but done by somebody else has been accepted as an internal best practice. So those are kind of some danger points on A/B testing. But if you're just in a constant process of trying something new each week for every campaign, you'll validate or invalidate those to find what's some pockets of opportunity.
Right. One caution, though, I would say on split testing is to make sure you have a big enough list.
Yeah.
If you're just starting out and you have 500 people on your list,
Yeah.
the data is going to be skewed. What's that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like there's, you want to get to statistical significance on some of
Yes,
these
that's
recommendations, and you'll get some directional data, but you're right. If you only have 1,000 people on a list, that might be a little, a few clicks can sway you one way or the other.
yeah.
But yeah, so being aware of small data sample is definitely a recommendation.
So, what's something that every business owner, regardless of their size, could change in their next email to make it feel less generic? Would it be don't use AI, use AI to clean it up, or start with AI and then edit it? Or what is the rule that they could use to stand out?
Well, like next email, tell a story.
Hmm.
Like put someone's face in the email and tell it like here's RJ, here's why he started the business. Like here's his story. Like AI is not going to make up the story about RJ Talyor,
Right. Right.
Like go human there, or tell a story about a customer, one of your customers that's been successful, a case study or a human interest thing. Like that is it'll take a little more time because you've got to interview the person or you've got to ask for their permission to show their face. But like I think that's I hate to use that word best practice, but like that's the way to go. Tell a story, tell it with emotion, tell it about a memory, a dream, something that makes us really human and connected. Like that is differentiated and
Yeah.
will stand out. Use their
Yeah.
name, put their
Yeah.
name in the
Yeah.
subject line. This is RJ's story or whatever.
And don't use an AI image. We were just talking before we started recording today about an
Yeah.
ad that came out yesterday that
Yeah.
had an error on it, right?
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating. I follow all this stuff the AI generated content. And the big criticism that marketers have is, AI slop, and everybody likes
Yeah.
to point out AI slop. And if you're familiar with the Turing test, Alan Turing, he was the scientist who cracked the Nazi code, and he's responsible probably for me sitting here, in ending World War II. But the Turing test is what helps us understand is the language that's used is like, can you determine whether an AI, whether content was AI generated or it was human generated? And all these models are now past the Turing test. It's hard to discern whether an AI or human has created the content or written the email or created the image. And just yesterday, I saw this article that was blasting REI, the outdoor retailer. I love REI,
Mhm.
or an ad that they ran on Facebook that featured an image of a bicycle, like a 10-speed bicycle that had two sets of handlebars on it. And
That's so
so it
fun.
was clearly an AI generated image. And it's a kind of a weird blame game because REI is saying we were automatically enrolled in Meta's AI like beta test. And then Facebook is saying, no, REI knew that they were in this. And so there's an interesting finger pointing, but ultimately, like, who is responsible for this? Well, somebody didn't look or approve or QA the created image before it went live. And
Yeah.
that's the risk, of course, right?
Yeah.
And especially when you have like an outdoor audience who values things like grit and extreme sports and stuff like that, to get it wrong with an AI generated image that has two sets of handlebars and a weird bike, like, it doesn't look good. But on the flip
Yeah.
side, vendor Meta doesn't look great for creating that content. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, on Meta ads now, it will say, can we just choose images for you? Or can we, enhance
yeah,
everything for you?
yeah,
And I've always been hesitant to say,
yeah,
yeah, no, I'm not. No, don't touch
yeah,
my images.
yeah,
So I wonder if something like that happened because you wouldn't
yeah,
necessarily even see that before it was released,
right,
especially a company like REI who is putting out,
yeah,
thousands of ads. So
yeah,
that's really interesting. Hmm.
yeah. Well,
Good.
so here's the thing where, like, if you ask anybody, like a human, or like if you ask anybody, like, hey, I'd like to provide you with hyper personalized recommendations to you, be that you're gonna love, and we're gonna find the right content. Most people will be like, yeah, I'd love that, right? Like, I'd love for REI or another brand to say like, "Hey, RJ, we know you'd love this shirt in this size at this price point that has these features in it that fits really well." Because I don't really want to shop, I don't really like shopping, And I'd be like, "Yeah, that'd be great." Like if it actually worked, and that's what we always talked about as marketers is like hyper personalization. But to execute hyper personalization, you have to let the AI do its thing, right? And so create a bunch of ads, a bunch of content that has all the different variations of the shirt on all the variations of the different human. I hear my wife talk a lot about how much she values brands that show all sorts of different ranges of models instead of always showing the stick thin 22-year-old wearing the product. Instead, there's a variety of different models that show actually how things fit. She's like, that's the best. I love that I can see that. But to
Mhm.
create that costs a lot of money for the brand. And so
Yeah.
a lot of marketers have turned to AI models to generate different body types, different heights, different coloring, racial differences, like all of those different things so that people like my wife can understand, all right, ooh, that one will look good on me. But that
Mhm.
hyperpersonalization means that there might be mistakes in there. And
Right.
almost infinite options. Like from a QA perspective, how does the human then have enough time to QA all those different variations? So I don't blame a brand like REI for not having looked at everything, but there is a chance, the brand risk of getting
Yeah.
zinged on social
Yeah.
media or alert there. So
Somebody has to take responsibility.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's tricky.
Where can somebody find out more about you or your company?
Y- Yeah, of course. Well, we're Backstroke. You can just go to www.backstroke.com. And, on the human side, I grew up swimming. I swam in high school, swam in college. I swam this morning. I still swim.
Oh,
And it's my form of exercise as well as mindfulness. And so when I went to start the company, I wanted to have something swimming related. And so it's backstroke.com.
backstroke. Love it.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
makes it easy to remember. You attach a story to it, right?
Yeah. Be human.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, RJ, for spending time with us and love what you had to say. It's a lot to think about too for our emails.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So here's a little challenge for you this week. Take a look at one of your pieces of marketing. Maybe it's an email or even a social media post. And then ask yourself, if I remove my logo, would somebody still know this came from me? If the answer is no, don't panic. That's something that you can work on one piece at a time. So if you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love it if you'd subscribe or leave a review or share it with another business owner who's trying to stand out in a world that's starting to feel a little plain vanilla, right? Thanks so much for joining me today. For more information about anything we talked about, visit myweeklymarketing.com/167. Thanks for spending a part of your day with me today. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.